what ends up happening with a lot of people when they meetings is that they just show up and they're like, well, we're in a meeting. I guess we got to talk about something. No. So now the first step in good meetings is just to define what you want to get out of the meeting, which is to pull out some action steps from the projects that have the highest priority, right? Then the two other elements that are hugely important is ending the meeting, summarizing, and like making sure that everybody's on the same page, right? So what ends up happening is that a lot of times people don't refer to their notes. And so at the end of the meetings, I'm really advocating summarizing what everybody heard and summarizing that everybody meeting has the same understanding of what the priority is and what they're supposed to do. And that's just been huge. The reason why I understand this is that I had two meetings with two people from the same organization, and I asked both, what do you think the priorities are? And this is after they had a meeting and they said something different, which says to me that they don't really have a system in place for having meetings and ending meetings with prioritizing. And we actually, in our meetings, like we have something kind of similar that happens after every call, like the big ideas are summarized and what I'm going to commit for the next period. So that's been the main thing that I pulled from the book. Yeah, having a template for your regular meetings.
Yeah, I think kind of makes everything more efficient in a way, and even like for clarity to see if the people you just talk to are on the same page as yours. But aside from this, I do want to ask about if you have any progress on the conversational content templates, like even if you just thought it out a bit more.
Yeah, so I wrote down five. Thank you for asking. I wrote down five. So right now I have the old way versus new way. I have the analogy slash metaphor slash a simile. I have one which is a story. Another one is called the step-by-step process. And then the fifth one is called the key parts or components, right? So as an example, I use two of those content templates in this conversation, right? One is talking about like the old way versus the new way of thinking about business being separate from the creative fields. And then another one that I've used is the example of it is the component content template, where basically you break down like the key building blocks of something, right? So example, I said that the key building blocks of a really good meeting is a checklist, a summarization of what everybody heard, and then the third thing I said was defining the priorities, right? So if somebody would ask you what are the three top components for a meeting, you would say a checklist so that you don't forget anything, defining the priorities, and summarizing the main points from a meeting. So the reason why I think that's useful is that when you go back to repurpose content, right? Like what I just basically, you probably have two or three like 2-minute videos that could talk about each one of those things, right? Could talk about So I think I really like those content templates. And what I decided is I have a sheet near me where I can just like look down and see it. But eventually, I want to get to the point where I have them all memorized. I welcome any other content templates that you might think would be useful, like scales, like songs from, popular scales or popular riffs that can be put together with other riffs to play 3 or 4, similar songs.
Yeah, I think the one that you mentioned, like personally, when I'm watching some content or hearing a podcast or whatever, like what resonates very well with me is anecdotes. So when someone is telling a story to reinforce their kind of their content or like their value offer. So
nice. Stories.
That's something you've already included, right?
Yep, stories.
As in story, okay. Yeah. But it's interesting to try and find these patterns, because if I think about it, it is the way content is presented, and it is also the way content is made engaging on social media. Even though it's not something that people talk about a lot, to be honest, to have even I'm not saying like to have them as a template, like as an actual template in your docs, but to have it like in your mind as a way of structuring what you want to say.
Yeah, definitely. It's just, I mean, I think you can never go wrong when you have some kind of structure. And the good news, I mean, the good thing is that it's about making using those templates or structures to the point where they feel totally effortless, right? Like people shouldn't feel like, oh, okay. Just like a good joke feels like great comedians, it just feels like somebody's talking to you, right? Like in reality, it might have sat down for hours and talked about, I mean, they do the good ones, the best ones. They write and rewrite jokes. They wait for the right pauses. Like they do a lot of work. So I'm very excited to be able to do this. And it's almost like you may have heard this term, like kind of like contained creativity, where it's like you create but within a container. So that's kind of yeah, that's kind of where I am right now. I did make progress on, like, I need to sit down and really figure out what I want to get done for the rest of my time here. And so I'll probably, I would say that's the main thing I just want to commit to for I would say for today, I want to spend some time working on the to-do list that I created yesterday of what I want to get done for the rest of my time here.